welcome to a deep dive into Jaws. You sent us some fascinating analysis on this classic thriller,
Yeah.
and it's clear you're ready to go deeper than just shark scares.
What's
But let's dive into what makes Jaws such a lasting piece of cinema.
It's a film that works on multiple levels,
Okay.
and the analysis you provided really digs into that.
Right. For example, everyone knows Spielberg is a master of suspense.
Right.
But I was blown away by the idea that the mechanical shark's limitations were actually turned into a strength.
It's a fantastic example of creative problem solving
Yeah.
leading to artistic brilliance.
Right.
The analysis argues that by focusing on what you don't see,
Okay.
Spielberg taps into our primal fear of the unknown,
Right.
that lingering dread, that anticipation of the attack
Yeah.
is arguably more effective than constantly showing the shark.
It's true. Your imagination runs wild, and
Well.
suddenly every ripple in the water is terrifying.
Exactly.
So before we get into those techniques, let's set the stage just a bit.
Sure.
Jaws takes place on Amity Island,
Okay.
a small community that depends on summer tourism.
Right.
And when a shark starts attacking swimmers, well, their livelihood is on the line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the analysis points out how brilliantly the film uses this very real conflict to heighten the tension.
Right.
Do you prioritize the safety of the people or the economic well-being of the town?
Yeah.
It's a dilemma that still resonates today.
It's a lose-lose situation.
It is.
And then we meet the three guys who end up facing that shark head-on.
Right.
Brody, the police chief.
Yeah.
Quint, the grizzled shark hunter. And Hooper, the marine biologist.
Right.
They each represent a different response to the threat, don't they?
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
The analysis digs into this,
Okay.
showing how they're not just stereotypical shark movie tropes.
Right.
Brody is the everyman, terrified of the water,
Yeah.
but forced to confront his fears to protect his community.
Classic reluctant hero.
Right. Then you have Quint, who's fascinating. The analysis suggests his World War II experience,
Okay.
where the ocean was the enemy,
Right.
fuels his need to dominate the shark. It's like he's fighting a war that never ended,
Right.
haunted by both his past and these creatures of the deep.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
Oh.
His trauma is literally woven into the film's DNA.
Yeah.
That adds a whole new layer to his obsession, doesn't it?
It does.
And then you have Hooper
Right.
trying to bring science and reason to a situation that feels practically biblical.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the analysis points out how this clash of personalities,
Right.
especially between Brody and Quint,
Yeah.
adds another layer of tension to the film.
Okay.
You have Brody's fear evolving into a kind of reluctant courage,
Right.
contrasted with Quint's almost primal need to hunt the shark,
Right.
and Hooper caught in the middle.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for some serious on-screen fireworks.
Mm.
And that's where Spielberg's mastery of filmmaking really comes into play.
You're right. The analysis talks about how he creates this incredible sense of dread
Yeah,
and suspense.
right.
And it's not just about the shark itself. It's the way he uses every element of filmmaking to get under your skin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take the score, for example.
Okay.
Everyone knows those two iconic notes.
Right.
They become shorthand for ocean terror,
Mm-hmm.
a character in themselves.
I bet you can't hear them now without picturing the ocean or a fin cutting through the water.
Right. And what's fascinating is how the analysis highlights the simplicity of it.
Okay.
It's not a grandiose orchestral piece.
Right.
It's just those two notes,
Yeah.
perfectly placed to evoke a sense of impending doom.
Right.
Pure psychological brilliance.
It's true. And it's not just the score.
Right.
The analysis also talks about how Spielberg uses everyday sounds splashing, a buoy clanging,
Yeah.
and turns them into something ominous.
It's true.
You're constantly on edge.
Yeah.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. Spielberg understands that what you don't see or hear can be just as effective as what you do.
Right.
He leaves space for your imagination to run wild,
Right.
which is often far more terrifying than anything he could put on screen.
So true. And speaking of things that are more terrifying imagined,
Yeah.
the analysis mentions Spielberg's use of underwater shots,
Right.
often from the shark's perspective.
Yeah.
It puts you right there in the action,
Right.
in the murky depths.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're completely vulnerable.
It's about putting the audience in the protagonist's flippers,
Yeah.
making them experience the fear firsthand.
Right.
And Spielberg takes it a step further with some of his camera techniques,
Okay.
like the dolly zoom.
Okay.
The analysis actually made me think about that technique in a whole new light.
Okay, for those of us who aren't film buffs,
Sure.
break down the dolly zoom for us.
Yeah.
What is it,
So
and how does Spielberg use it in Jaws?
the dolly zoom is this disorienting effect
Okay.
where the camera zooms in on a character
Okay.
while simultaneously moving backward.
Okay.
The result is this warping effect on the background, like the world is shifting around the character.
Which, in the context of Jaws, probably means Brody just saw something terrifying in the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a visual representation of shock and fear.
Right.
The world literally twisting out of perspective as the character grasps the true danger.
Right.
Spielberg uses it to incredible effect in key moments,
Yeah.
amplifying the terror.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating is how the analysis connects this technique to the broader themes of the film.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, the dolly zoom isn't just a cool visual trick.
Okay.
It reflects the characters and, by extension, our own fragility in the face of the unknown.
Okay.
The world, quite literally, shifts around them,
Yeah.
highlighting their vulnerability and the immense power of the force they're up against.
Right.
It's not just a shark. It's a symbol of the vast, untamed power of nature.
So it's not just a shark attack, it's an existential crisis.
Exactly.
Directly caught on film.
And that's where Jaws,
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
transcends the monster movie genre.
Right.
It's grappling with these bigger questions
Right.
about humanity's place in the natural order.
Mm-hmm.
We build our lives on the edge of the ocean,
Yeah.
but the film reminds us that we are ultimately out of our depth
Right.
when confronted with its raw power.
It's that fear of the unknown we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
but magnified on this massive scale.
Right.
And then, like you were saying, there's the theme of leadership,
Right.
or rather the failure of it.
I mean, it's
The
not-
mayor more concerned with saving face and the tourist season than people's lives.
It's a classic case of hubris, isn't it?
Yeah.
The analysis points out how the mayor's denial,
Right.
his refusal to acknowledge the very real danger,
Yeah.
only exacerbates the situation.
Right.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing profit and self-interest over safety and well-being.
And it's incredibly relevant today, sadly.
It is.
We see so many examples of this in the real world,
Right?
where those in charge turn a blind eye to environmental concerns,
Yeah.
and the consequences are often devastating.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Jaws forces us to confront those uncomfortable truths,
right.
but it also offers a glimmer of hope.
Okay.
Think about that final showdown between Brody, Quint, and the shark.
Yeah,
They're outmatched, outgunned,
right.
but ultimately it's Brody, the
Yeah.
everyman,
Yeah.
who finds a way to defeat the beast.
It's that classic underdog story, but I never thought about it as a message of hope before.
Right.
Yeah.
It's subtle,
Okay.
but it's there.
Yeah.
The film suggests that even in the face of overwhelming odds,
Yeah.
even when confronted with forces beyond our control,
Right.
courage and ingenuity can win out.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
About how we respond to the sharks in our own lives.
Right.
Whether they're literal or metaphorical.
Yeah.
Do we give in to fear and denial? Or do we find the courage to fight back?
Yeah.
To face the unknown head on?
That's the power of a film like Jaws.
Right?
Nearly 50 years later, it's still sparking these conversations.
Yeah.
Still making us think about our place in the world
Mm.
and the choices we make when confronted with the unknown.
Wow. What a deep dive. We went from mechanical sharks to existential crises.
We did.
All thanks to your insights and the fascinating analysis our listener sent in.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Jaws is a film that rewards multiple viewings.
Right.
And I'm sure this conversation will give me even more to consider the next
Yeah.
time I watch it.
Me too. So for you listening, what lingers after this deep dive?
Yeah.
Is it the masterful way Spielberg builds suspense?
Hmm.
Or those deeper themes of human nature and our relationship with the environment?
Right.
Something to chew on until our next deep dive.